What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I'm your host, Mitch Kaiser. I am joined by Beckett Mesko today from Fantasy Life. Beckett, good friend of the pod, man. Friend in life in general. Former coworker at PFF. I think you're the last of the PFF people to come on this show. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I've tried not to be too offended of the entire thing. You've got bigger names like Max, Trev, and Dalton to talk to. I get it. Renner, all those great guys. But no, yeah, it's great to finally get on here and talking to you, Mitch. It's been too long.
You mean the host of NFL Pro, Trevor
I do.
Sigma?
I am comparing myself to the host of NFL Media, Trevor Sigma.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, Beckett, man. I know you and I worked together on the Discord for years at PFF. Now we are off on our own here. You're at Fantasy Life. Tell me about your new job, man. I know you just started at Matt Berry's Fantasy Life. Tell me what you're doing for them.
It's been awesome. I've been there for roughly 4 months now. I'm pretty much doing everything on their social side, so a little less analysis than I was doing over at PFF. Not doing as much writing, not as much on-camera work as I used to be doing, but a much bigger foothold in the social media aspect. So yeah, if you want to follow along with anything I'm doing at MB Fantasy Life on all platforms. But it's been a ton of fun working with a ton of great people over there. Matthew himself is actually now full-time with Fantasy Life after leaving NBC. So we've got all of his rankings, articles. His Ride or Die actually drops tomorrow, which is Thursday the 20th. All his stuff is free on Fantasy Life. So it's been a blast. I'm just ready to get into the season at this point.
Yeah, dude, seriously, I need games to just start playing, man. I appreciate you coming on camera for this, though, making a special appearance to join me on camera and do a little fantasy preview. I wanted to get your expert rankings here. Today, we're going to do a little point after fantasy football season preview just for your drafts. Once we get into the season, I might bring Beckett back from week to week, and we'll do a little weekly breakdown of guys you should start, not start, you name it. But this is going to be a draft and do not draft type of episode, which we'll get into Beckett's rankings here. First off, Beckett, I want to just ask you, who is your number one fantasy player for the whole season? Any position, before we get into your position by position rankings, who's the number one guy that you would draft in fantasy this year if you had the number one overall pick?
Yeah, for me, all offseason, it's been Jahmyr Gibbs. I went back and forth early between him and Bijan, but overall, I just like the Lions offense a lot more than I like the Falcons this year. I actually had it flipped last year. I had Bijan as my 101 last year over Chase. I'm knocking Bijan down to my 102, and I wouldn't be mad at you if you took Chase over him at the 102 this year. But I just think I much prefer Jared Goff to either of Michael Penix or Tua throwing the ball. I think the offense is going to be a lot more efficient, going to be a lot more opportunity for touchdowns. Plus, you've got David Montgomery out of the picture this year. I think it just feels like a LaDainian Tomlinson type of season for Jahmyr Gibbs coming up.
All right, and he just got paid, so he's motivated. Montgomery's out in Houston, and I keep hearing Dan Campbell and all the Detroit radio stations I listen to. He keeps talking about how much they're going to force feed this guy the ball this year. So take note if you get the first pick in your draft. So, dude, I gotta say, this is the least amount of fantasy prep I have done for my own league. I am down to one league now. So for years, I was in about 5 or 6 leagues, and it was just too chaotic, too much. Which, talking to a fantasy football analyst, that probably is like the least amount of leagues you've ever heard of. I remember Ian Hartitz was in like 70 of them or something.
I told myself that I think last year I was in 25 last year, and I told myself I was going to hold back a little bit with like new job, getting a footing, like wanted to really scale it. I think I'm already in 23 leagues this year, so it's
So you're drafting every night, man. You just got drafts for.
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 in-person drafts the last 2 days. I'm drafting best ball almost every day. And then I've got I'm in 3 different leagues for Fantasy Life right now. I've got bunch of guillotine drafts, all that. It's
yeah,
insane.
I feel like when I was working at PFF, I would end up getting thrown into like 4 or 5 leagues at the very last second, not by choice, because like they're like, Mitch, we need someone, like we just need one more guy. Like, come on, it's not that hard. Like not and then you end up in like 8 leagues when I really only wanted to be in like 3. So
Yep.
I have had to scale it down. I am down to 1, which I go all out for every year with my best friends from college. So we go all in for it. To me, that's the way to do it, because I can just fully focus on one team and not have to be rooting against my own players on a different team. That always would piss me off a couple years ago, because I feel like you can never win in all your leagues if one of your players goes off.
No,
So
I mean it's miserable in that sense, because I mean you'll be sitting there watching the game, and that's why I cut out all of my free leagues this year. I did a couple free leagues with buddies last year where I drafted, they just needed a guy, but I couldn't do it this year. It was just another tab to look at that I didn't want to look at because there was zero incentive. So I don't know. You can never win all of your leagues.
I can't half-ass something either. Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be competitive and want to win and go all out for it. So, like, if I know that I'm not going to be as motivated, I'm not going to want to play that league, because I want to go all out. I want to care. I want to focus on it and actually win. So, I haven't won my league in a few years, though. So, the last time I was in the championship game, it was week 16 a couple years ago in 2023 when McCaffrey got hurt in the final game and, like, cost me the championship game. And I dominated with him all season long. So I need your help to help me win the league this year, because it's been a rough few years for me since that 2023 season now. Let's start off with running backs, or whichever position you want to talk about first. Give me your top 5, and we'll get into your position-by-position rankings here.
Yeah, all right. So as Gibbs is my 101 this year, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs is my number 1 running back. We already went down all of that. Very close number 2 is Bijan for me. Honestly, the only thing is I think the offense overall is worse, as I said when I was talking about Gibbs earlier. Number 3, I've got James Cook. There's been a ton of training camp buzz that they're trying to get him more involved in the pass game this year. If he can pick up more of a pass game role, a top 3 finish seems absolutely inevitable, just with the sheer amount of touchdowns he scores. I do think there will probably be a little bit of touchdown regression, but I feel like we've also been saying that for 3 years with James Cook, so I feel like you can never really rule it out. And then at 4, I've got Jonathan Taylor this year. He was just electric with Daniel Jones last year. All reports are good on Daniel Jones. Coming back from his injury, I think Jonathan Taylor's in for another big year. And then 5, I've got him a little higher than consensus. I think consensus at Fantasy Life, we have him ranked 7th or 8th right now. I've got Ashton Genty at my 5 this year. I just think the upgrades to the O-line, I think whether it's Kirk or Mendoza under center, that offense as a whole will be humming. And I think the pickup of Jalen Naylor this offseason went really under the radar and will open stuff up a little bit more. With Bowers and everything else they've got going on offense. So I'm really, really bullish on Ashton Genty this year.
Really? Okay. So after a tough rookie year where you really couldn't tell what all was on him or not with the bad O-line that they have, bring in your guy, Tyler Linderbaum from Baltimore. Massive improvements to the offensive line. So you're all in on Vegas in terms of like Genty's touches, Genty's value.
Yeah, I think Genty's touches are going to be through the roof. I think they're going to try and get him more involved in the pass game this year. And I think the pass game as a whole will just hum a little bit more this year. And I think that was part of the issue last year for him, was the pass game wasn't really doing much. It was the worst season from Geno we've seen in the last 5 years. And so he was just getting the box stacked against him almost every single rush attempt. So there wasn't much room to work with, especially with how poor that O-line played last year.
Yeah, and going back to his college career at Boise State, the year before he ran for like 2,600 yards, he was the nation's leading receiver from the backfield. So he had the most receiving yards out of any running back in the country. And then Boise State went away from that the following year for him because they were just force feeding him 35 carries a game.
Yep.
But people forget that's still in his game and that he is a dominant receiving back compared to a lot of running backs. So, all right, that's good to know on Genty, because I was a little worried after his rookie year, but still feel a lot of promise coming out of Boise. Regarding the other few running backs you mentioned, so what you're telling me is if a running back just got paid, I should probably draft them in fantasy this year.
I mean, that seems like the trend, right? How far we've come from, what was it, 3 years ago, where running backs were going on strike for not getting paid enough, and now they're all getting paid the big bucks again now. But yeah, I mean, all of the guys that cashed out this offseason just have perfect setups in fantasy this year. I mean, there are plenty of late round guys too, but the early running backs this year are just absolute smashes, and that's why outside of Jamar and maybe Puka, I'm a little bit more out on him this year than most people. I like running back early as compared to wide receiver this year.
It's funny the life cycle of the top fantasy players since I've like been playing fantasy my life. I would say wide receiver. Like when I was in college, it was like Antonio Brown,
Yep.
wide receiver, just won one every single year. Don't think about it. And then it was Todd Gurley for a couple years, like the best running back. I feel like it's shifted from wide receiver to the do-it-all running back who is going to also get passes, pass catches in the game. Is that kind of your philosophy? Have you shifted away from like wide receiver as your number one overall pick?
Yeah, and I don't have per se an issue with taking a Chase or a Puka or an Amon-Ra early whatsoever, but it's just more so I think there's a lot better wide receiver depth right now in the NFL than there is running back depth. You're going to be able to get a Chris Olave or like even right now, Malik Neighbors, you can get sometimes in round 3, late round 2. You don't have to spend your first round pick on a wide receiver to still get elite production out of the position. Whereas running backs, there's a much harsher fall off, I feel like, especially this year.
That's a really good way to put it. Last question on running backs here. I want to bring up a popular name here. What are your thoughts on Saquon this season? Do you think we see a bounce back year for Saquon Barkley, or do we see more of the 2025 version for the rest of his career?
No, I think his ADP is about appropriate right now. I think he's about RB7, which feels really fair. You're getting a little bit of a discount because of the play last year. The offense as a whole last year was just kind of gross to watch. Like they were winning games, but it was AJ Brown was crying for the ball. Devonta Smith was involved. Dallas Goedert scored what felt like a million touchdowns last year.
That helped me.
And
I had Goddard last year. He's been a steal for me for a couple years now. But I'm big on Eli Stowers for the future of that position. So
yeah,
but anyway.
So I don't know. I feel like he's fairly priced. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Saquon rips off another top 3 finish. Top 5 is 1,000% in the cards. I feel like he's a great value where you can draft him right now, just because the offense as a whole is really good. I mean, you've always got the Jalen Hurts issue, which we ran into a little bit more last year than we did in 2024. But also 2024 was a bit of an anomaly. I mean, Saquon ripped off 20-yard rushes at a rate we've almost never seen. He was one of my do not drafts last year.
I thought he was washed the season before, and then he goes and does that in 2024. So it's like running backs, it's such a tough position to project, given the mileage on them.
Yeah, so I think he's fairly priced. He could very well outperform his ADP, but I think he's going to be anywhere from like that 6 to 10 RB range this season. I don't think he's going to make or break your draft this year.
Alrighty, let's get into wide receivers now. Give me your top 5 wide receivers for 2026 season.
All right, so I've got Jamar Chase as my wide receiver 1 this year. I've got Puka Nacua as my wide receiver 2. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown as my wide receiver 3. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba as my wide receiver 4. And then I have CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 5 this year. CD, I'm probably a little bit higher on than consensus. I feel like he's roughly around wide receiver 7, 8 consensus this year. But this feels like the Dallas defense feels a lot better this year than they did last year. I mean, I feel like people are really underrating the fact that they just brought in Von Miller. Von Miller is old, but Von Miller ripped off 9 sacks like it was nothing last year. I think in a press conference today, he said he could roll out of bed and get 8 sacks. Like that, adding Caleb Downs, who you were huge on Caleb Downs this year.
My number 1 player in the draft. He's the best player from that class. He's going to be the Kyle Hamilton of that draft in a few years, and everyone's going to wonder how he fell to 12 And it's the safety thing again, and it's people overthinking it, man.
But I think that defense is going to be a lot better. They're going to be in some more games, and I think you get a full healthy season of CD and George Pickens together, which a lot of people are viewing as a bad thing. I think it's going to be good for both of them. You've got a little less attention on either or, and then you've got Javonte Williams doing his thing, humming the ball down the field, but he's not going to do anything too flashy. But I mean, he's fun to watch.
Not to make this a Cowboys podcast, but I had Ben Lindsay on last week, and we both took the over on their 9.5 win total, and I genuinely think they're going to win. I really think they're going to win the division and like compete in the NFC because of the defensive side of the ball being night and day almost from a season ago. And again, like the CD Lamb and George Pickens, would you argue that tops T. Higgins and Jamar Chase as the best duo in football?
I don't think so. I think Pickens, I would give a slight edge over T, but I give Jamar a bigger edge over CD.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, no, I'm with you on the Cowboys offense. I think I also am a Dak fan. Like, I think Dak is better than a lot of people will ever give him credit for, but he just plays for the Cowboys, so that's why. And then lastly, okay, so Jamar Chase was your first. Puka was your second.
Yep.
Amon-Ra third. JSN fourth. Okay. JSN, tell me about the Seahawks here because he absolutely lit it up last year. Did he finish as number one receiver?
Yeah, he finished as the wide receiver one last year. I think it's just going to be – it's hard to do it back-to-back. It's really hard to do it back-to-back. It's even harder to do it back-to-back with a new play caller. New play caller scares me a little bit. You can say the same about a couple of different guys, but Sam Darnold is still, he's not you know what Sam Darnold is. You know what you're going to get. Sam Darnold isn't going to give you anything crazy, but he's good enough, as we saw, to win a Super Bowl last year. Yeah. But he's not going to be ripping you off many 400-yard games. It's not going to be anything crazy. I just like the
I think he had like 122 yards in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like passing yards in the Super Bowl, like 130 yards or something.
I like the floor a lot more on Jamar, Puka, and Amon-Ra than I do on JSN. JSN might arguably have the highest ceiling out of any of them, other than Jamar maybe. But the floor on a week-to-week basis for me, on the other three I have above, just feels a lot safer if I'm looking at a first-round receiver.
Yeah, Puka, in terms of on the field stuff, I know he's got some stuff going on outside of football, but on field, Puka is absurd to me, like absolutely ridiculous in terms of the level of catches he makes and the physicality he brings to the wide receiver position. In terms of volume, I'm with you. I would give Chase the nod here. Like, I would rank Puka as the best receiver in football because I just think no one's doing what he is doing on an offense. But in terms of volume this season, I definitely think Chase is going to be in the mix for that, especially with reports coming out of Cincinnati, my hometown here, where I'm looking at Paycor right outside my window right now. What do you think the Bengals are going to do? I know you're a big AFC North guy as a Ravens fan. How do you think that offense is going to look? I know we're getting a little tangent.
Yeah, I mean,
what's it going to look like for Burrow over 17 games? Is he going to survive?
And that's all dependent on O-line play, right? That's the story of Joe Burrow's career right now. Is he's arguably the best quarterback in the league, but can he stay on the field? No. Why? Because they refuse to build an offensive line around him. They've attempted. There's been attempts. It just hasn't worked. I'd love to see him finish a whole season. I would love to see a year where we get 2 Lamar Burrow matchups and we get to fully battle that out for the division. I think they're going to give up a lot of points this year. I think the defense is still very suspect. But the offense is good enough to keep pace that they're going to win those games, even if the defense gives up 25, 30 points. It's going to be a lot of fun. That offense is going to be humming. I'm huge on Chase Brown this year. He's someone I think is also in line for a massive, massive year.
We need you to come to town for the Ravens Bengals game, man.
I was planning on
Me and
it.
Eli will throw a tailgate
It's on
here. Come on down.
Thanksgiving though. It's Thanksgiving. I was planning on coming down and seeing you and Eli. We were gonna try and convince AR to come down. We were gonna But yeah, it's either Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's one of the two where it didn't make sense this year.
Yeah, maybe we'll meet in the playoffs. Who
Yeah,
knows?
right?
But speaking of quarterbacks, so you're a big Lamar guy, big Burrow guy over here. Give me your. I know you're a huge Josh Allen guy of all. That's your favorite QB of all. Give me your top 5 quarterbacks for fantasy football this
Yeah.
season.
I've got Josh Allen at one. I feel like you don't even really need to say anything about it. The week to week touchdown upside, the passing yards, the rushing yards, and he's stayed relatively healthy every year. I've got Lamar at 2 this year. I feel like it's gonna be a big bounce back year. New coaching staff. He's seems energized for one of the first times in what I can remember. It's been a while. The Harbaugh
With
era got a
Harbaugh,
little
is that the no
stale.
Harbaugh effect?
He was at OTAs this year. He's been doing off-field workouts with all the receivers this year. The O-line, while we lost Linderbaum, overall I felt like got better this offseason. And I feel like it should be a really good year. At 3, I've got Burrow this year. I think Burrow is, like I said, due for a huge, huge season. Ideally, you're banking on him staying healthy, but if he can, it's massive, which leads into my 4th, which is also a guy you need to bank on staying healthy, in Jaden Daniels. Um, if you're looking at rushing upside, it's just ridiculous, and that's what you need in almost every fantasy league right now, is that rushing floor, which is the one thing Burrow doesn't necessarily have. But I think it's going to be if Jaden can stay healthy, I think it's going to be a lot of fun with Diggs and Terry this year. Chigo Conquo is one of my favorite late round tight ends to draft this year. I've been beating that drum for 5 years now as a Maryland guy, so it's I feel like this might finally be the year all the athletic traits are there for him. He just needs the
Sounding like
targets, and it
Kyle
was
Pitts
never
the
going to
way you're
happen
talking
in
about
Tennessee. Yeah, right. And then to round it out, I've got Drake May at the 5.
My guy. There we go. That's what I'm talking about right there. All right, let's talk about Daniels. All right, we lost Beckett for a second. He is back. He had a quick power outage, but we were talking about Jaden Daniels. So, Beckett, tell me why is everyone falling off of Jaden Daniels already? And I'm with you, man. Like, I would have him in the top 5 for fantasy QBs because I think the sheer volume of it. It seems like people are already treating him like RG3, and I feel like we're not there yet.
No, I don't even think we're close to there yet, honestly. It Last season was really unfortunate, and on it, I put that a lot more on the coaching than I do Jaden Daniels himself. I mean, the major injury was they were down 30 in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and they were still running him out there. He had no business still being in that game. Yeah. It was that the long-term injury was absolutely on Dan Quinn. He had no business being in that game when that injury occurred. Um, but I do think you're getting a discount almost because people are scared. It's the same thing with McCaffrey every year. People don't want to draft him because of what if he does get hurt. When in reality, I feel like especially with quarterbacks that I think Daniels is going in like late round 4, early round 5 right now. You're It's okay to take a swing there. Just draft an insurance later. Get yourself a Kyler Murray late, someone else with a little rushing upside that is your insurance if he does happen to get hurt again. And I think, as dumb as it sounds, I think the off-field antics that are going on right now play a little bit into it. I think people don't like drafting guys that they don't like. And I think this number 5 LSU thing right now has gotten so blown out of proportion that
Yeah, I should have brought that up. Yeah, I should have started with that.
his PR right now is just in the toilet. And I think a lot of people don't want to draft him just based off of that. And I mean, in the last week, his ADP's dipped 15 spots.
That's so funny, man. I didn't even think about that. That is hilarious. I also think it's great karma for LSU's current season and Sam Levitt for the season he's going to have as the LSU quarterback. I think it's good karma for him too. But no, I didn't think about that. That is interesting. I'm with you. I think it's, to me, we're a year and a half away from having the RG3 discussion, in my opinion. But it's like, obviously, if the guy doesn't put on weight and keeps playing reckless and keeps getting injured like
Yep.
that, then those question marks do arise. I do want to ask you about Drake May real quick, because we all know that's my favorite QB in the league. We don't need to talk about the top three. We all know those are the top three fantasy QBs for years to come and whatever, and going to put up numbers every single game. Are you worried at all about any Drake May regression? I know some people are talking about how his stats were so astronomical, like the 8.9 yards per pass, 72 completion rate. Like, can he replicate that level of success? I would argue the roster around him's gotten even better. Like,
So,
the receiving
yeah.
core is better.
Yep.
The O-line is better. So how are they going to be so much worse is what I'm asking you, I
I
guess.
think one of the bigger things that people are looking at when they're talking about the regression for Drake May is the fact that they're playing first place schedule this year. They're not playing the last place schedule. It was talked about so much all year. Oh, well, when the Patriots finally play so and so, it's going to be. They've had the easiest schedule all year. They still found themselves in the Super Bowl. Drake May walked through the AFC on his way to the Super Bowl last year.
Split with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean,
No, I don't need to tell you.
AJ Brown is, as much as people were down on him heading into the year, I feel like that's completely 180 and everyone is so back in now that he's officially on the Patriots. I feel like AJ Brown is a much bigger upgrade than Stephon Diggs, and a lot of people are forgetting they added Romeo Dobbs. They did a ton of work on that offense this year, and it just, the floor of that offense is 10 times higher than it was last year.
Yeah. I guess since you mentioned it on Jaden Daniels, you talked about like people not liking someone. Is there any worry about Mike Vrabel coaching and what that looks like? Like, is there any negativity surrounding that? Not to open a can of worms on this show, but are you worried at all about his mindset going into the season, I guess?
Nah, I don't think so, honestly. And I think that is, I think AJ Brown coming in actually was really good for that, as surprising. Like, just being from the Titans, being with Vrabel before. I mean, AJ Brown's been doing nothing but singing praise for Vrabel since he got in the building. And I guess there was never a good time for that to happen, but it feels like it couldn't have happened at a better time, because by this
If it
point
happened
it's
now,
essentially blown
yeah,
over. Yeah, if it happened last
he's
week,
not
we'd be
coaching.
having a completely different conversation. But it happened before the draft. It had 6 months to blow over before we got to week one. So I'm not too worried about the whole Vrabel situation anymore.
That's probably a good way to look at it. All right, last position here, tight end. We're not going to do kickers or defense because we don't care about those here. But tight end, give me your top 5 tight ends for 2026 fantasy
Yeah.
season.
Your top two, I don't think we need to discuss too much at length. I've got McBride at the 1, and I've got Bowers at 2. I'll go into that a little bit. I mean, Bowers was just seen with some tape around his PCL. Those injuries can linger a little bit. If he ends up missing even a game or two, I think McBride probably finishes as the tight end 1 this year, and we saw how much Jacoby loved feeding him the ball. And even if Carson Beck
loves
take
tight ends
over,
as well,
yep.
so Carson Beck's going to be spinning it to McBride late in the season.
That's your 1 and 2, and that's the solidified 1 and 2. And then I've got Colston Loveland at the 3, as does every other fantasy analyst on earth. It seems like it was so encouraging last year. The offense has gotten better. Ben Johnson, it feels like, does nothing but talk about how good Colston Loveland and Luther Burden are, which is really exciting. And I mean, Ben Johnson straight up coming out and saying he wants to break the NFL scoring record this year was it fired me up to say the least because I have nothing but
I
Colston
want to
Loveland
hear a coach
shares.
say that. It's like
Yeah,
GMs, like my teams at the deadline every year, they're just say like, oh, we really don't want to do much. Like we don't want to lose prospects. We don't want to go for it and lose our draft pick. I want to hear my coach say, we want to freaking win it all. We want to go win a championship. We want to do this. Like I would rather have coaches or GMs talk like that. Like you said, get you fired up than something that's like just coach talk where it's like,
yeah.
we can't really get into it. So, no, I'm completely with you.
But I've got Colston Loveland at the 3, and then I've got the other first round tight end from that draft at the 4 in Tyler Warren. Again, similar to Jonathan Taylor, looked really, really promising with Daniel Jones. The wheels kind of came off a little bit once Daniel Jones got hurt. His floor fell very, very hard, but he still has as much weekly upside as anyone with Daniel Jones at the helm. And then I've got Tucker Kraft at my 5. I have so many Tucker Kraft shares in Dynasty, and he's just so good. If he can stay healthy, a top 5 finish feels inevitable. Jordan Love loves throwing him the ball. And he looked just unguardable last year before he got hurt. I think he was tight end 3 before the injury last year. I could be mistaken there, but Tucker Kraft is someone I love targeting. He's going almost a full 2 rounds later than Colston Loveland, and I don't think there's going to be that big of a gap in points.
So, are you telling me I should keep Colston Loveland on my team? Because I had him last year in the 13th round.
Yeah, if it's a keeper, I would keep Colston Loveland.
Okay, because Romo Dunze was another option. I had him in the 8th round, and then so no.
I think
Dunze.
I don't dislike a Dunze this year, but as far as keeper, I think he's going in the late 5th, early 6th right now, so you're not getting that much value back on him in a keeper league.
Yeah, no, I like am in my fantasy group chat. Like our keepers are due today, so I might have to text them literally right now on this podcast. So switch mine to Loveland, not Odunze.
Yeah,
I made a joke to keep Josh Palmer in the 14th, and they said no, you're locked in, you're stuck, you locked in. You already said it, so I'm hoping my roommate doesn't actually lock that in, but we'll see. All right, cool. So. That's all you got on tight ends. Did you give your 5th one? I forget. Tucker was Kraft, right?
Kraft at the 5. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the Packers real quick because I think they're an interesting team this season under a decent amount of pressure, which sounds kind of weird because like they're coming off a playoff season and we know Micah Parsons is out right now with an injury. So like they're not fully healthy, but when they are fully healthy, this is like a top 6 or 7 roster in football. What are your thoughts on like their offensive ceiling and I guess Tucker Kraft? Because Jordan Love's issue has been finding consistency with a select group of receivers / tight ends over the past few years. Now it seems like they've kind of like trimmed the fat in this receiving core and they've got their stud tight end in. Do you think it's going to look a lot better this year in the Packers offense?
A lot of it depends on Matthew Golden. To be completely honest, I think you need to see a step from him. I mean, kind of to your point, the Packers have kind of been the home of the wide receiver 2s and 3s of the NFL over the past 3 years. Christian Watson's always looked like he has the skill set to be a wide receiver 1, and he got paid. Another guy who got paid this offseason. But he needs to stay healthy, and that's why he is not making as much as a Zay Flowers, or he's not making as much as a JSN or guys like that. Jaden Reed, another guy I really, really like, but has also dealt with some injuries. And then Matthew Golden.
Michigan State guy. I got a Sparty t-shirt on there. Jaden Reed,
Let's go. Sparty. And then, I think Matthew Golden has to take a big step this year. I mean, there's been tons of buzz about him out of camp looking really solid this year, but I think you need to see a lot more from him this year. But Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson are the 2 Packers that I would look at in fantasy drafts this year.
Now we're going to get into his must-draft players before we look at the do-not-draft players. So, all right, Beckett, give me a couple of your must-draft players, no matter what round, wherever they're at. before we go to the do not draft list.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with higher ADP or lower ADP guys, and then I'll go down to some deeper cut guys. My first one's Devonta Smith. I think he's going mid to late round 4 right now, and he is hands down the wide receiver 1 on that team and the highest. He's going to see the most amount of targets this year. AJ Brown leaves, and that was 107 vacant targets this year. They obviously brought in Mekhi Lemon, but you have to assume that the bulk of those targets are going to get split between Devonta Smith, probably a few to Dallas Goedert, and then Mekhi Lemon. I feel like getting him, as ADP is 46 right now, I feel like that's just a screaming value for a guy who is hands down a wide receiver 1 in one of the better functioning offenses in the league right now.
Yeah, he might cook for the Philadelphia offense this season, especially when they brought in Sean Mannion, new offensive coordinator, who wants to air it out more. He's known to like throw the ball more than run, and that's been a big change. That's going to be a big change for the Eagles offense for Nick Sirianni. And there are a lot of people that don't think it's going to work for Jalen Hurts this season, and like ultimately are questioning what that's going to look like for the future of the Eagles and if he can fit or not with Sean Mannion. So, no, that's definitely interesting there. Devontae Smith's going to have to feast because he's, like you said, he's the only one there now, it feels like.
Yeah, someone has to. I actually ended up doing this a little backwards. I adjusted so my next one is Chris Olave, who's going earlier than Devonta Smith. Olave was actually my flag plant last year. He was going criminally late in drafts last year. Ended up coming off a wide receiver 7 season, finished in the top 10 last year. He's now going in round 3. His ADP is 25 right now. He was already on this list for me, but with the Jordan Tyson news, missing most likely 2 months.
The most surprising news of 2026.
Right? Missing
hey,
2
he was my
months.
wide receiver 1, so I take credit.
He was mine too. Missing 2 months, the hamstring has just seemed like it's never been fully healthy. And then now you've got Alvin Kamara is likely out 1 to 2 months, who is going to eat up a lot of targets in the short passing game. Olave's stock just feels like it keeps going up by the day, not for good reasons, unfortunately, but it continues to rise. And I think in that 2-3 turn right now, it's arguably the best pick. Shuck looked Olave's way so much last year, and that's just clearly not going to change this year. Their chemistry just keeps getting better. I don't know if you saw the clip. Olave had a really nice grab over your boy Caleb Downs for a touchdown yesterday in joint practice.
Buckeye to Buckeye, yeah. Buckeye on Buckeye crime right there.
But I think Olave's in for another really big year, and the ADP has him a little lower than where he finished last year. I think he's almost a surefire to finish in that wide receiver 5 through 10 range this year.
I think people just forget how good Chris Olave was in general, too. Like, I feel like he's one of the league's most underrated receivers year in and year out, just because he's so steady and consistent, even if he doesn't really wow you with one particular skill or trait. So, no, I'm with you. I'm a little lower on Tyler Shuck than the consensus. I'm still in more of like a prove it mode because I was not high on him in college, so that's one where I'm like, let's see if he can do it over the course of a 17-game season, but we'll see.
All right, my next one, we're gonna go 3 straight receivers. Going Christian Watson, who we just talked about. He's going around pick 60-ish. He's going that 5th, 6th round turn area, which is a spot where, in my opinion, you can really start to take swings on upside. And Christian Watson, to me, feels like he has the most upside in that Packers wide receiver room right now. They just paid him big money. I think, what was it, $110 million? So they clearly have a lot of faith in him, and he's always had the skill set and the route tree to be a 1. It's just a matter of staying on the field. And I mean, that was the question with Chris Olave last year. The concussions were a big issue. People wondered if he could actually stay on the field, and he did it last year. Returned in a wide receiver 7 finish last year, and I'm kind of flipping my philosophy from Olave last year to Christian Watson this year, and I'm going to bank on the fact that he can put together a fully healthy season, or at least a fairly healthy season, and way outperform that ADP.
Yeah, and he's going to get more targets for sure with Green Bay, given they kind of like ridded out a lot of the like lesser receivers and they've got it down to 3 plus Tucker Kraft now. So, and Love is healthy. I mean, Love is ready to go, it sounds like, and they're projected to have a pretty decent season on offense. I know the defense is going to struggle in the beginning without Parsons, but they might have to keep up points wise. So, could see that for sure. Any other must draft players for you, Beckett?
I've got 2 more. I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Kyler Murray. Kyler is probably my biggest flag plant of the year this year. I've been beating the Kyler Murray drum since he signed in Minnesota. It's really, really hard not to be good with that arsenal of weapons. And they add
Jay McCarthy found a way. He found a way.
He could not cheat in Minnesota like he could in Michigan, and it was the downfall.
Or he wasn't doing this the whole time.
But I just think the weapons are way too good. And I think Kyler's way too good. I think he's a way better quarterback than people are giving him credit for. It feels like the entire world forgot about Kyler Murray, especially in fantasy. We're talking about a guy who his last 3 full seasons that he's played has finished in the top 12 quarterbacks every single time. This is a player who, when he plays full seasons, is going to be a QB1 in fantasy. And you're getting him at what, pick 120 this year? You're getting him in the 10th and the 11th round. If you're going to punt the elite quarterbacks, if you're not going early for a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray is my absolute favorite pick late. I think the rushing upside is massive, as we all know. The weapons are there. What I'm trying to do in all of my drafts right now is stack Justin Jefferson. If I have that pick 7 through 9 range, which a lot of people dread this year, take Jefferson and then stack him with Kyler late and just ride your way to the championship with those 2 and figure the rest out.
That sounds great. I was looking for the key to the championship victory here. No, you're speaking my language in terms of drafting quarterbacks, because I am of the belief that you should wait a little bit to take a QB, and I'm never going to draft Josh Allen in fantasy. I'm not going for that early on. Some people take him in round 2 in my leagues, and I think that's crazy. And I'm like, every year I wait till the 7th. I got Brock Purdy last year in like the 7th, or I forget which official round, but later in the draft. And he was good for me, and like Purdy got hurt, but just an example of a guy you can still win with in your league and put up a consistent like 16, 17 a game. Kyler, I think, spot on this season. I mean, I think a lot of people are expecting him to put up numbers in Kevin O'Connell's offense. So, sky's the limit for him with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Man, that's crazy weapons.
And they added Juwan Jennings. You can't forget. They had Juwan Jennings signed to this offseason too. I mean, they have an arsenal at wide receiver this year. All right, last one. I'm going to run through it quick. And I actually just subbed out his now injured teammate for this player. Tank Dell is my last one. Jaden Higgins just tore his ACL before we got on this, before we hopped in this.
So unfortunate, man.
Jaden Higgins was probably my second most drafted player up to this point. I
heard he was looking
on the year
incredible
2 breakout for Jaden Higgins.
Yep, I heard he was a breakout.
So I am going to swap in Tank Dell as a must-draft guy. You're risking nothing on taking Tank Dell. If you're doing a typical 17-round draft, your defense and your kicker are around 16 and 17, throw a flyer at Tank Dell in the 15th. There's absolutely no harm. This is a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, but the last time we saw him play absolutely lit it up. He still has the connection there. Now Jaden Higgins is out. Jalen Noel's been a little bit banged up. I mean, Nico's going to eat. David Montgomery's probably going to take a little bit of receiving work this year, but there's absolutely no risk in throwing a flyer at Tank Dell in one of your last rounds of fantasy drafts this year.
I will certainly be doing it because I am as big of a Tank Dell fan as there is out there.
Yeah.
I've been watching this guy since his Cougar days back in college. So I'm so excited to have him back healthy again. I'm, great that he had a successful recovery on a gruesome injury. So, excited to watch Tank Dell play again. I honestly think the one question for the Texans offense is going to be Stroud. It's going to come down to
agreed.
CJ Stroud, truly. And if he can still be the guy they kind of projected him to be at number 2 overall. So, all right, let's talk about the negative side now. A little do not draft list. Give me a couple guys that you are just staying away from no matter what. Just don't do it.
I do not think I have drafted a single share of Devontae Adams this year. Not one. I love the player. I hate the price. He's getting priced for the amount of touchdowns he had last year, and you're expecting that to carry over to this year. It's just not realistic to me. Could he do it again? Absolutely. But I think you've got Kyron Williams back there. You've got Blake Corum expected to take on a bigger role. You've got Puka, who is fully healthy other than running into a glass window, I guess.
Heard that. Michael Rubin's party. Yeah, that's pretty
so I just don't see the touchdown numbers coming in slews like they did last year. And for that, I just don't want to draft him at price. If he falls a round or two, I'll gladly take him. But where he's going right now, I can't justify it.
Wasn't there a running back who experienced this a few seasons ago who had such a crazy touchdown number, but they weren't that good in terms of like production or like yards per carry? Their touchdown was just crazy high. And then the foul was it Jamal Charles on the Lions a couple years
Jamal
ago.
Williams.
Jamal Williams, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember he had like 20 touchdowns, but he averaged like 3 yards a carry.
Yeah,
it's like he just got the goal line stand every single time, and that was like I remember going into the following season, everyone was like, "Yeah, don't draft Jamal Williams again." Like, but that's the one guy I think of for touchdown regression.
Yeah, there's always a chance he repeats it. I mean, he's going to catch fades. I'm not willing to take the risk at the price for him. My next guy is going to be Christian McCaffrey. And it's the two sides of the coin when it comes to the fantasy analysts every year, right? You've got the guys who are pounding the table for McCaffrey, and you've got the guys who don't want to take the risk. I'm on the don't take the risk side this year. I don't love that offense as a whole right now. I'm excited about Stribling. I think he's flashed in camp. He flashed in the preseason game. He just caught 2 touchdowns against the Chargers ones yesterday. But I think the offense as a whole is really banged up. Kittle's banged up. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall's out for the season. Debo is back. That's fun, I guess. But I mean, there's just not a ton that excites me about the 49ers this year, and I think that's going to lead to a shit ton of touches for Christian McCaffrey, for lack of better words. And he's coming off a 400 touch year. He's over the age of 30. The historical data for that just isn't good for running backs who are looking to get a big workload the following year. And so I'm not really willing to risk my 5th overall pick on Christian McCaffrey this year. And I completely understand that there's a 50-50 chance that I am completely incorrect and he finishes as the RB1 again this year, but that's just not a risk I'm willing to take.
No, I'm with you. I'm not a big injury guy. Like, I just don't trust players who are going to be injured every season, and that just always bothers me. So, like, when I'm doing my draft prep, so I will probably put him on my do not draft list. Like, I trusted McCaffrey a couple years ago, like I was talking about at the beginning of this in 2023, but that was 4 seasons ago. So it's like guys over 30 now. I'm with you. I'm not trusting the rest of the 49er offense and the O-line. So, no, I will not be drafting Christian McCaffrey.
Now, all right, so my next one, I have moved. He has jumped from my must draft to my do not draft list at least 4 times in the last 6 months. I cannot make up my mind. I'm pretty sure I'm keeping him on the do not draft list unless something insane happens. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. I really want to be in. I want to be in so bad, but I can't. He's going as the wide receiver. He doesn't look good in camp. He looks slow. He looks unmotivated, and he doesn't look mentally there. And I really hope he gets it figured out, but his interviews have been less than encouraging. He's just kind of seems like he's not having fun. He's not playing fun football. He's going as the wide receiver 31 right now. I'd much rather draft Christian Watson, DJ Moore. I mean, you can even get Brian. I'd rather take Brian Thomas Jr. and take the risk on him again this year. And I'd rather take Michael Wilson at wide receiver 40 than Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver 31.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate to hear on Marvin because, like, such a promising player, such a promising receiver prospect. And, like, I remember going back to some interviews I watched of him at Ohio State and just, like, his personality and character. I will say there is a, like, nonchalantness to him in, like, terms of just, like,
Yeah.
he is kind of a casual guy. And I don't put that against him. Like, you know, be who you are off the field. I don't care. Like, but it did always seem like at Ohio State, he was kind of just like, you know, he was having fun, but it didn't really seem like he was all into like what they were trying to accomplish. I don't know. It's hard to explain now, but hearing it now, it kind of adds up in Arizona. Like I just don't know if he's all in on football. Like, it's not to say he's a bad dude or like questionable character at all. I've heard quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I've heard he's like an amazing dude and like such a nice guy. And sometimes that's a problem too. Like if you're not a killer, if you're not all in on ball, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
man. And that leads me very well into my last do not draft player, who is dangerously all in on ball, and that is Cam Scatterboo. I'm out. I can't do it this year. I love the guy. I don't love the price. He's going as the RB18 right now. They just signed Najee Harris, which I think is a bigger deal than people are making it out to be. As a Ravens fan,
you think it signals something like injury?
No, I think it's because Tyrone Tracy let Jackson Dart get absolutely smoked in the preseason. And I think Tyrone Tracy's job is probably gone. But I think as a Ravens fan, I am very well aware of how much John Harbaugh values a pass blocking running back, and Najee Harris is one of the better pass blocking running backs in the league.
He's not one of the best running back runners in the league.
That he is not. But I think he is going to be on the field for an annoying amount of snaps to get in there on pass blocking situations. He's going to be there. I think he's going to be more annoying than Tyrone Tracy would have been, which hurts Scatterboo's stock to me. And we all have Tyrone Tracy to thank for just letting a rusher just blow up Jackson Dart in week 1 of the preseason.
Hey, Dart said he was fine. He didn't even know why he was in the medical team.
But on top of that, I mean, you've got the injury stuff. It lingers a little bit. You've got the concussion worries. It's a lot for me to take him at a RB18 price. I mean, you're drafting him. Right now he's going over Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Bucky Irving. I'm kind of out on him this year too, but I'd still probably rather draft him than Scat this year. That's just 5 guys I rattled off the top of my head that are going later in drafts than Cam Scatterboo that I would hands down rather have on my fantasy team this year.
Yeah, it's tough because as a big college football fan, I loved Scatterboo coming out and was like, when he was having success last season, I was like, see, I told you guys, like, see, we knew he was going to be good. And then he took it a little too far, and now he's in like WWE fights, and like we're like, what are we doing? So, no, I hear you. I am not like super excited about the Giants' offense. I'm not gonna lie. I've not been a Jackson Dart guy, so like we'll see how that all meshes together. But I think they're kind of using Dart wrong in that offense as well, if I'm being honest. But that's more of a Jackson Dart autopsy. So, all right. Last few segments here. I know I'll get you out of here. We're at an hour, but any rookies that you're high on this season? I know you watch less college football than I do, but you're probably new to these guys, and I know you're pretty excited about your guy Jacoby Lane stepping into Baltimore.
We were talking about this a little bit pre-show. I try really hard to not buy into the rookie hype, especially the rookie wide receiver hype as a Baltimore Ravens fan. I've seen it countless times where this 3rd to 6th round guy is just going crazy. But Similar to Tank Dell, I don't think there's any risk in throwing a dart at Jacoby Lane late in your drafts. I mean, the wide receiver two role in Baltimore is wide open for the taking. You've got Zay, and then I mean, you've got the ghost of Rashad Bateman. Um, but other than that, I mean, it's wide open. DeAndre Hopkins is out. Isaiah Likely is out.
Coaching Georgia Tech's wide receiver. I actually think that's cool.
I think
Like
it's really cool. It makes me feel
I thought that was
old.
awesome. Yeah. Like as a college football fan, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like he's going back to coach that Georgia Tech. So that's but yeah, no, definitely is a loss on the receiving core for the
Yeah.
Ravens.
So I think Lane's going to be a lot of fun. If he can really establish himself, it's going to be it. He should immediately thrust into that wide receiver two role. Outside of that, I mean, I'm excited for Jeremiah Love, as is everyone else. I'm hoping that this ankle is being overblown and it's much more of a we're just going to shut him down for the preseason because we saw what we needed to see, rather than a true high ankle sprain, which could kind of linger into the regular season. Um, but I'm really high on Carnell Tate. The preseason week one showing was really bad. It was really bad from Cam Ward and Carnell Tate. It
I was
was
at the Bengals game Thursday night, but I heard it was not great. I was getting text messages and like reading the stats. I was like, ooh, 5 for 12. Not
Tate
great,
had
but
3 targets, 0 catches. Ward finished 5 for 12 with 40 yards and like a 60 QBR or something. It was really, really ugly for the starting
hey,
offense.
preseason don't matter.
Yeah.
Just wipe it out of your memory.
But
Preseason doesn't matter.
I think he's going to be fine. He's obviously going to be fine. I'm very high on Carnell Tate. I'm still pretty high on Cam Ward. He's another guy I don't mind. I don't mind throwing a dart at late as my QB2 in fantasy drafts this year. I think they're going to take a step. I think that whole offense has gotten a lot better this year. Um, those are my three, really.
All right, there we go. Appreciate you coming on, Beckett.
Of course.
Tell us where we can follow you at in fantasy life this season. Tell us what you're going to be up to this football season.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a little bit of betting writing for Fantasy Life this year. I've got a four futures have already placed article coming out at the end of this month or early September, still to be determined. That'll be free on fantasylife.com. And then I'm on Twitter just being really annoying about football all the time. So at 410 Beck on Twitter. And yeah, at all the Fantasy Life socials at MB Fantasy Life. We've got all the Matthew Berry content, all the Dwayne content, everything you could possibly need to win your fantasy leagues this year is on Fantasy Life already.
Dude, I'm counting on you. I'm going to be like rewatching this episode before I do my draft in a few weeks and like writing notes from it. So we'll need, and then I'll be holding you accountable if I stink. So, no, appreciate you coming on, Beckett. Thanks for making some time for me. I know you're super busy right now prepping for the fantasy season, but we'll get you back in a month or so when we got games to talk about. We can do a recap episode or something on NFL, but, give me a Super Bowl pick before I let you go. So last summer, when we were still working at PFF, RIP, you had Baltimore Ravens, unsurprisingly. Is it the same pick as it always is this year?
Yeah.
Please tell me it's not.
No, it is.
It's Ravens this year again?
Give me the Ravens and the
why.
Rams this year. I think the culture feels different. It really does this year. I've had some kind of random excuse every year as to why we're winning it all. But I really feel like the defense is going to take a giant step this year as compared to where we were last year.
Minter's the guy.
Minter's a guy. The Ravens are making up for the fact that we fumbled Mike McDonald and didn't let Harbaugh go 2 years ago, and when we should have hired him then. But they are capitalizing on it now. I think Minter's the guy. I think getting Hendrickson in the building is going to be huge. I think you saw Minter take Odafe Owe, who did nothing in Baltimore for 3 years, to an 11-sack guy last year, which I think is going to be huge for guys like Mike Green, who it almost feels like people have completely forgotten about. We drafted Mike Green in round 2 last year. That guy had what? You'd know better than me. 18 sacks his last year at Bowling Green, or at Marshall, yeah.
Like 17 at Marshall.
And then you've got it's the corner room, from what I'm hearing, is just ridiculous this year. It's
I'm all in on Nate Wiggins. I think
I
he's
think Nate
disgusting.
Wiggins is going to have a huge year. I think Kyle Hamilton is obviously going to have a huge year. And I think you see a big bounce back year from Roquan Smith. He looked slow and fat last year, and he doesn't this year. And the Rams, I feel like I really don't even need to explain. They
Yeah,
were they
there's no
were they were
weakness
right
on
there,
paper.
and they just added fucking Miles Garrett to the team. Sorry, but
And they might
it's
bring back Aaron Donald
yeah.
out of
And I mean,
retirement.
if you
So
bring back Aaron, if you put Aaron Donald, and Miles Garrett on the same line, just pray for the rest of the NFL. That's all I can say, because it's not going to be fair.
it's going to be Aaron Rodgers behind center, just getting rid of the
Yeah,
football every
I
split
mean,
second.
and I mean,
How
it's
do
not
you
like we're
stand it?
talking about an Aaron Donald who retired because he was 45. We're talking about an Aaron Donald who retired because he was bored. This isn't
This
a
is like
guy who
Michael
retired
Jordan.
because he couldn't play.
This is like Jordan retiring in '93 and then coming back in
Yeah.
'94 and then winning 3 more championships. So, like, yeah, that could be what we see for Donald. So, all right, man. No, appreciate you coming on, Beckett. This was so much fun. Thank you for your time. And make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to The Point After with Mitch Kaiser below. And have a great rest of your week.